Before Saturday's dawn, Ukraine plunged into darkness once again. A massive Russian assault ripped through the country's energy infrastructure, triggering emergency blackouts across most regions as freezing temperatures tightened their grip. Ukraine's state grid operator, Ukrenergo, said the attack was still underway, with power facilities deliberately targeted, leaving hundreds of thousands without light or heat in sub-zero conditions. According to Ukrenergo, damage from incoming strikes forced emergency outages nationwide. Restoration crews stand ready, but repairs can only begin when the security situation allows. For many Ukrainians, this means another night of cold apartments, silent radiators, and uncertainty as Russia presses its war despite ongoing U.S.-mediated negotiations aimed at ending nearly 4 years of conflict. Kyiv accuses Moscow of waging a calculated campaign against civilian energy systems, turning winter into a weapon. Nowhere has the impact been felt more sharply than the capital. President Volodymyr Zelensky said more than 1,110 apartment blocks in Kyiv remain without heating following recent air attacks, with nighttime temperatures expected to fall to -8 degrees Celsius. In a stark address, Zelensky demanded faster action. He called for urgent upgrades to air defenses, particularly systems designed to intercept attack drones, warning that uneven performance had left dangerous gaps. Personnel changes are coming, he said, in areas where results have been unsatisfactory. Every day matters, Zelensky stressed, saying there is no time for weeks or months of delays as repairs and equipment deliveries are rushed forward.
I have scheduled a meeting with our delegation for tomorrow. The guys are returning to Ukraine today, late in the evening, and tomorrow there will be reports on those sensitive aspects of the negotiations in Abu Dhabi that cannot be discussed over the phone. We are preparing for the next trilateral meetings. Tomorrow we will be talking to our European partners. Our parliamentary diplomacy is also at work in America right now. The Speaker of Parliament, Ruslan Stefanchuk. Before his trip, we discussed what was most needed, and that is support for our state, our people. The Air Force of the Armed Forces, there will be staff reshuffles, currently in some regions and units in relation to protection against Russian Shaheds. The small air defense component, specifically countering attack drones, must work much harder and prevent the problems that currently exist. In some areas, the defense lines are better constructed, while in others there is still work to be done, and a lot of it.
Emergency assistance is redirected to Kyiv from other regions, even as repair teams race to restore electricity and heat under the constant threat of renewed strikes. The pressure on Ukraine's defenses comes as fragile diplomacy continues in parallel. Ukraine and Russia have held 2 rounds of U.S.-brokered talks in Abu Dhabi since January. The negotiations produced agreement on a major prisoner swap, but stalled on the central dispute over territory. From Washington, President Donald Trump struck an optimistic note, telling reporters that good talks are underway and hinting that movement could be possible. The Kremlin says a 3rd round of negotiations should happen soon, though no date has been set. For Ukrainians shivering in the dark, the contrast is stark. Cautious words of diplomacy on one hand, and the reality of missiles, drones, and freezing nights on the other.
We had very, very good talks today, having to do with Russia, Ukraine. Something could be happening. We likewise had very good talks on Iran Iran looks like it wants to make a deal very badly. We have to see what that deal is. But I think Iran looks like they want to make a deal very badly, as they should. Last time they decided maybe not to do it, but I think they probably feel differently. We'll see what the deal is. It'll be different than last time. And we have a big armada, we have a big fleet heading in that direction. We'll be there pretty soon. So we'll see how that works out. Well, I think a deal can be reached. Well, you have to get in position. We have plenty of time. If you remember Venezuela, we waited around for a while, and we're in no rush. We have, very good talks going with Iran. We have very good talks going with Russia and Ukraine. We're doing a lot of good talking, and I think we had the results today were with Iran. It was a meeting. We're going to meet again early next week, and they want to make a deal. Iran, as they should want to make a deal. They know the consequences if they don't. If they don't make a deal, the consequences are very steep. So we'll see what happens. But they had a very good meeting with a very high representative of Iran, and we'll see how it all turns out.
They had less than a minute to choose between life and death. A civilian train, over 200 passengers, and Russian drones closing in from the sky. Panic unfolded in seconds aboard a Ukrainian passenger train last Tuesday after crew members spotted Russian drones tracking the locomotive in the Kharkiv region. Train conductor Anatoly Timotsko says everything happened in the span of a single minute. After seeing 3 drones following the train, he immediately ordered passengers to evacuate, fearing an imminent strike. But there was no time. One drone hit the tracks ahead, forcing the train into an emergency stop. Seconds later, another drone slammed into rail car 16. 5 passengers were killed. Dramatic footage from the scene shows an entire carriage engulfed in flames. Another shows a mother scrambling across snow-covered tracks, clutching her baby. Train attendant Olga Terletska was among those rushing through the carriages, shouting warnings, pulling people toward the exits. She says the fear was overwhelming. After evacuating as many passengers as possible, she fled into nearby bushes as explosions echoed behind her. Both Timotsko and Terletska later spoke to AFP in Kyiv, where they were honored for their actions at the capital's central station. Ukraine says attacks like these are becoming more frequent. Russia has intensified strikes on rail infrastructure, a network used to evacuate civilians from frontline areas. Moscow denies deliberately targeting civilians, but Ukrainian officials argue the pattern tells a different story. Ukrainian Railways CEO Oleksandr Pertsovsky says the goal is clear: to cut off regions of the country by attacking what he calls Ukraine's lifeline.
Aim is very clear. If you put latest attacks on railways on the map, you clearly see that there is an attempt to effectively cut certain regions of Ukraine.
Railways have long been a critical artery in wartime Ukraine. In 2022, a Russian missile strike on the Kramatorsk railway station killed around 60 people. Despite the danger, last Tuesday's crew acted fast. They detached the destroyed carriage and moved survivors into cars still able to travel east toward Lozova. Train 104 operates between Lviv in western Ukraine and Barvinkova, just 50 kilometers from the front line. After the attack, the crew were granted leave. They are set to return to duty on February 7th. Terletska admits she is afraid, but says the railway staff are bound like family. Timotsko, a former soldier who fought from 2022 to 2024, agrees. He says fear doesn't excuse stopping. With civilians still riding the rails and war still raging overhead, he says there is only one choice left. It's our duty.